Over the last decade, I've had the privilege of working with some of the best CMOs from startup to enterprise, where the campaigns that we have been responsible for have driven upwards of $1.3 billion in revenue. I'm taking all of these learnings today and teaching you the roadmap of how the best CMOs in the space create ever-flowing revenue engines. Let me put you in a little bit of a hypothetical situation here. You're a CEO of a Series A startup, and yeah, cool, you're sitting on a little bit of investment, but things are still fairly bootstrapped as you're starting to scale. Your CMO comes over to you and says, hey, we just spent $47,000 on new leads. We're really excited about hitting our MQL targets this quarter. We should all go out and celebrate. But something doesn't feel right because revenue didn't have a spike that would suggest that, hey, we put this much of an investment into this. After you dig deep into the data, you realize only 73% of those leads that were brought over to the sales team last quarter ended up converting, showing a major flaw in your system. Your sales team is pretty much about to revolt because the majority of their day is being spent on unqualified leads who have absolutely zero intention in buying. The wild thing here is that most B2B companies are absolutely drowning in this mess, and the majority of them don't have the strength to continue wading water. The funny thing is that this code has already been cracked. There aren't really many secrets on the internet or the age of information anymore, and this goes well beyond or is a precursor to AI. You don't need ChatGPT to have been able to do the research to see how a CMO of a given company actually was able to bring them to market successfully. All of this information is available online via news reports, blogs, going on a Wayback Machine and seeing what their landing pages used to look like. The issue is too many founders these days are just trying to take the shortcuts to stand themselves up because the market is moving so fast that they never end up learning the fundamentals. One of the biggest challenges coming in as a product marketing manager, or right now as a director in marketing at Clover AI, is turning marketing from a cost center into a revenue engine that the executive team can actually believe in and continue to invest in. More often than not, founders, co-founders, obviously your sales reps and your sales VPs are always going to be advocating for more in that department in sales. They think that more sales reps equals more revenue, and that's not always the case. Yeah, sure, you might have more boots on the ground, more conversations are being had, but if product development isn't moving with customer or market expectations, then you're kind of shit out of luck. Your competitors are going to build something better than you. And yeah, cool, you have 30 more sales reps than they have, but your competitors are going to churn after 90 days when they realize that there isn't really much depth to your product. Similarly, you could have 30 more sales reps than anybody else, and your marketing could be flooding them with leads. But if the marketing doesn't have the resources to understand that, hey, these leads need to be enriched, they need to be qualified, they need to go through a multi-step process of saying, like, this person has high buyer intent, you should talk to them, then they're just getting names and numbers, and that's not really valuable to your 30 plus sales reps. When you're using things like AI to embed or augment your systems, what people are starting to see in the startup world, like Series A, Series B, is a 40% higher valuation, up to a 22-day improvement in your closing rate. So like the ability to close your enterprise deals are effectively a month shorter just from being able to have better lead nurturing and making sure, like, hey, this person is as close to the point of saying, yes, just here's my signature. We already know that we want this. Why are we even on this call, right? You want them to be at that point. And it's the job of marketing to warm that customer up throughout the entire journey before they even touch a sales call. By the end of this, I want you to walk away with understanding that traditional lead nurturing is dead and that you have to use AI, especially if you're on a lean budget, to stay competitive in this market. Do all that good stuff that YouTubers like, where you like, comment, subscribe, give me any amount of feedback. I absolutely love it, whether it's good or bad. There's no such thing as poor criticism. It's all constructive. So give me any amount of help. I have been enjoying, I think, more often than not, recording them in my room because I can go from work to just sit back for a second, talk to y'all, and then pop my head back into work. We're in a lead nurturing crisis, and if you measure them, the numbers don't lie, and I always recommend measuring them. There's absolutely no value to your business for hiding analytics or metrics from your executive team or from even people below you. I think that there needs to be full transparency between where all the successes were, where all the failures were. Like, just have it be an open book so everybody else can move in a concerted effort. There's nothing, and this is off topic, but there's nothing that's going to kill momentum in your company more, especially if you're an early stage startup, to have your executive team be holding all the plays close to their chest and not really like saying, oh, it's a need to know basis. It's like, I'm in the company and this is where my paycheck comes from. I need to know, right? Like, at all stages. I don't care if it's like an entry level manager all the way to an executive. Like, cue people in frequently with like company town halls, fireside chats, one-on-one meetings, have a support team, like an internal support team. It's the only way that you're going to make sure that absolutely every single person on every team is making an effort in the same direction. It is very easy for people to get derailed or be like, oh, I didn't know that's what our product did. Like, trust me, I've worked with people before that they've been 6, 7, 8 months into a job, or even years, and just be like, oh yeah, we didn't know this feature even existed, or we didn't know that we had this direction in the company. And that's a failure of leadership. So work on that. At Dipity, we do marketing audits for Series A, seed round startups, and we were looking at a company around the 12 million ARR mark. They had a great product. They had a wonderful team, like pretty much people that were already worked on previous projects or companies together in the past, and they had wonderful synergy. In terms of their marketing metrics, they were bringing in about 500 MQLs a month, which sounded good in theory. But when we ended up looking at what actually converted from MQL to SQL, so marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead, we found that only about 23 of them graduated from that 500 into like, hey, these are leads with actual high buyer intent that are interested in the product. Out of those 25, only 4 closed, which is a 0.8% conversion rate. They ended up spending about $94K all in all on marketing just to acquire 4 customers, which their LTV barely even covered the cost of. When we flagged this and we ended up wanting to look deeper into the analytics, we found that about 47 companies in their lost leads list actually had genuine buying intent. They had real budgets, they had decision-making authority. They weren't really lost leads, they were an oversight, and realistically, they were just victims of terrible nurturing. And I see this across the entire B2B SaaS industry landscape, whatever you want to call it. Like, this isn't really an isolated case here. We're actually seeing this across the entire B2B SaaS landscape, where it's systematic failures across the board in lead nurturing, and it's costing you millions of dollars in just lost opportunities. There have been 3 massive shifts that have led to the demise of traditional lead nurturing. Number 1 would be the extended sales cycle, which is pretty much a crisis for enterprise sales reps. Right now, B2B buyers are expecting to have deals go between 4 to 6 months from start to close, about 22% longer than it was in 2020. Your prospects are researching for months before they even talk to sales, and if your nurturing isn't really sophisticated enough to stay relevant for 6 months or more, then you're pretty much just dead in the water. Second is the outreach fatigue. So B2B buyers are receiving like 200 plus emails every single week of people just trying to shove their product down their throat. It is relentless. And even as a digital marketing agency owner with myself, you would be amazed how inundated my inbox is of other people trying to sell me additional leads or SEO or content writing or paid ads. And it's like, I do all of that myself. Why would I need to go ahead and outsource that? I can only imagine what it is like for actual SaaS companies that, are getting bombarded by all of these new wannabes, AI unicorns that are popping up saying that, hey, we built a feature and decided to call it a product, and please give us your $99 a month, right? Like, they're drowning in it. So that's being incredibly selective about who they're actually going to sign on to. Plus, like, nobody wants to give their email out to every single company. The people that you're reaching to have developed blinders effectively. It's like a generic content immunity where they can just read, yeah, I've gotten that same subject line 14 times today. How about you give me something original, right? How about you give me something personalized? How about you give me something that only you have, like value immediately, right? Like, if you're using ChatGPT to create your subject lines, or, you're only just saying hi, first name, comma, and then insert, whatever bullshit you're trying to tell them, like, they just see it and they just breeze past it. There was, interestingly enough, I was doing newsletters for a supply chain company a couple of years ago, and we had an abysmal open rate. Like, it was for emails. It was something like 0.02%. Like, it was, nobody wanted this, or so we thought. And, I ended up putting an emoji to start. And that was it. It was the same subject line, an emoji, and it jumped up to like 3.6% open rate on the emails just off of one send. And then every email moving forward, we just added an emoji to. It's something as simple as that. This was 3 years ago. Something as simple as that, just adding an emoji, awakened so much of our audience because just the visual cue stood out. These users are pretty much filtering out all of the junk mail that makes it to their primary subconsciously. So make their job a little bit easier and give them something that stands out. And last up would be the personalization expectation sort of revolution. Everybody just wants everything to be catered to them now, and it's not really a hard ask anymore. 80% of business-oriented buyers actually expect personalized experiences from the people that they're shopping with. A simple hi first name just isn't going to cut it anymore. What they need is real personalization. They need to show you actually understand their journey, their pain points, and what solutions are within their grasp and capability of executing on. Companies want a partner now, not just a vendor. Old school lead nurturing always would just assume buyer journeys, generic content. You'd be forced manually scoring, and it all was pretty much like a one size fits all list of sequences. The world is pretty much gone now. You need to be adaptable on a per user, on a per lead basis, which is only capable with AI. Speaking of, if you're an enterprise exec watching this, of course, if you're a startup, AI is going to be built into absolutely everything that you do. It's just the new native systems at this point. But I still see a lot of enterprise executives, lagging in this. I believe the New York Times just did a report on this where 80% of enterprise execs feel like they're lagging in AI fluency in comparison to people that aren't on the executive teams, like their senior managers and just normal mid-level managers. So if you're watching this, it's the time. You saw the internet come, and people that didn't want to learn how to send an email are still struggling today. Like I grew up online, so it's a little bit different. But I watched people like my parents' generation refuse to learn the internet, and like just kind of became irrelevant. And it's going to be the same thing here. If you don't learn AI early, and you don't implement these systems, you are going to be orders of magnitude further behind on the learning curve. But also, these systems compound your growth so efficiently that, by the time you do finally flip the switch 4 quarters from now, that's a year, but, mid next year or 2027, you're like, oh, we need a digital transformation. We need an AI, revolution. Your competition is going to have created such a delta between where you thought they were and where they are now. And good luck keeping up with that momentum. So try and adopt it early. The things that typically change when you implement AI early is, to be fair, everything. But let me be a little bit more clear so I'm not just sounding hyperbolic for the sake of it. I'm not just talking about using your ChatGPT to write your emails. I'm talking about using integrated AI systems that are fundamentally transforming how you identify, engage, and convert prospects throughout the entire funnel. Traditionally, your lead nurturing is going to look like you're playing chess blindfolded. You are hoping to make the best move, but you don't really know how the opponent is going to react. AI lead nurturing is like that, but if you have a chess supercomputer just tapping you on the shoulder and telling you everything that's going to be happening 15 moves ahead because they've been here before. And that's the beauty of it. So even if you have a fantastic traditional lead nurturing model, you're only training it, or you're only able to extrapolate new strategies from it based on the successes or failures that you've had within your company. And your company might have only touched 100, less than 1,000 leads in its lifetime. Whereas with AI, it is able to look at a particular subset of persona data or across the entire market and tell you like, oh yeah, we analyzed 10 million leads in this exact same situation. Here's how you should go about converting them, because statistically this is what works. So it's just opening up yourself up to like the global maximum, where you're not just relying on your data anymore, you're relying on data, like big data, and it's just infinitely more powerful. You might think that the difference here is just going to be incremental, just like a small win here, a couple of percentage points here. But when you start adding all of these systems together, they compound and it becomes exponential. So when you're using predictive analytics, traditional lead scoring is looking at maybe 10 variables tops, like whatever a human can actually track on their own, whereas AI is looking at 200 plus. The companies that are using this are typically seeing about 50% more sales-ready leads, about 33% lower cost per lead, and an overall 25% shorter sales cycle. They're also using it to personalize their content at scale, which is a huge win. We talked about this earlier. Again, 80% of business B2B customers are expecting some kind of personalization. So AI is building role-specific content for like a CTO that needs to get a technical, deep dive, or a compliance officer that's looking for a regulatory framework. Like, it's writing it in their language with CTAs and headers that are bespoke to them. So you're not having to make one piece of content work overtime to serve 3 or 4 different personas and hoping that they all get some kind of shared value from it. Instead, you can make content a lot more easily that is laser focused on that one persona, that one conversion track. When you start personalizing, especially in the email space, you end up seeing upwards of 300% higher email open rates, which ends up leading to about a 67% increase in qualified conversions. The email is pretty much the earliest in the funnel that you can get them. You start talking to them there, you build trust, they start seeing your either your logo or your company name, you're delivering them value all the time. And it's like a slow, steady drip. Every single email is an opportunity to get a micro win that they gain more trust before they finally click on that CTA and go to talk to one of your sales reps. Another huge thing would be to have conversational AI that actually converts. So if you're looking at most chatbots on a website, it will pretty much just be a glorified fact. It might have access to the knowledge base. And then if it gets tripped up, it will just say, oh, do you want to speak to a human? How was my, experience here? Like, what can I learn? It ends up just being a good feedback loop, of course. Like, I'm not knocking it. If you have it, it's better than not having it. But it could be behaving like one of your best SDRs. It can just be trained on the personality of your best sales rep. Then it can be trained on your entire back end, knowledge base of like, these are the product capabilities. This is what our roadmap looks like. This is how you troubleshoot or how you fix this. These are all of our use cases and our personas and who we're selling to and why. So that way, when customers are coming on and they're starting to ask questions about the product, this system can already be selling to them. So that way it gets to the point where like, they don't even really have to talk to a human. They just know that that is a formality for them to go ahead and sign. Your AI can do all of the work in the chat window. This type of personalization and intelligence from your chatbot can actually drive upwards of 25% chat to appointment conversion rate. Whereas when you're looking at your traditional just run-of-the-mill chatbots that will answer very basic questions or offer up a Calendly, that's 3%. As a last note, this is probably what we're going to be using AI for primarily, and what we should lean on it more than content creation or anything like that is just regular workflow automation. So all of that mundane, stuck in the weeds type work that takes half an hour here, 10 minutes here, maybe 45 minutes here because you get tripped up and you need to troubleshoot something, it just takes that all away. So that way you can focus on higher level strategic initiatives that are actually going to move the needle. AI automates all of the grunt work, the data collecting, the scoring, the content distribution, the alerts, and it helps you be free to actually start building, navigating your deals, completing your competitive intelligence, or just going out and meeting your customers and figuring out what you can be building better for them. At this point, you only need a team of 3 to be outperforming what a team of 15 would be doing 3 to 4 years ago. I say all the time, like, I'm a team of 1 at Dipity, and AI has been able to unlock so much. I upgraded from a senior level, manager into an executive in a matter of 2 years just by plugging AI into everything that I was doing and ensuring, like, okay, this is how I can learn quicker. This is how I can go get information from the best. And then automate all of the mundane stuff so I can focus on actually going and building my network and doing great shit. What's great is that even using these systems, you're getting like 60% higher productivity and better results at the end of the day, and they cost 40% cheaper than having to maintain all of this help in-house. When we're looking to implement AI lead scoring at Dipity, we tend to use the SCALE framework. All letters, acronym, you're going to love it. So walking through quickly, S would be strategic ICP definition, C, customer journey mapping, authority content engines, lead scoring optimization, and execution and state-of-the-art agreements or optimization. So I'll break it down one by one. We say this often, but having a strategic definition of your ICP is essential, and it's something that you need to be able to reference and come back to analyze and adapt at least once per quarter. I would recommend once per quarter. Most companies, they define their ICP in really elementary ways using like really obvious characteristics. So things like what company size, what industry are they in, what role do they use? Like all of this is just such high level demographic information. Like, yeah, of course you want broad stroke tech companies in the supply chain. Yes, of course you want to talk to their CMO or insert whatever role. You know what I mean? But there's so much more that you can do to figure out buyer intent. Start digging a little bit deeper. A little bit of an advanced methodology here would be breaking it down into 3 steps. So you want to start with data integration. Integrate all of your data, not just some of it, all of it into your CRM of choice. So that would be your marketing automation, customer success platform, support tickets, sales calls from recording, or any third-party intent data, whoop, all the way into your CRM. So that way you can start focusing on who matters. Second would be starting to look at AI pattern recognition. So you want to analyze what the successful customers are doing to identify non-obvious patterns. So, okay, like these successful people have these outliers in their behavior. We want to only go after new users with this trait. We find that the users who spend 6 or more pages per session on our blog end up having a higher conversion rate when, especially if they visit more than once a week. Like, okay, cool. All of those leads we're going to then go contact. They have high buyer intent. They are qualifying themselves. They are coming back to us as a position of authority multiple times a week. And then they're staying for multiple pieces of content every single session. So it's like they're spending maybe 15 minutes twice a week on our page. Yeah, we should probably go fucking try and sell to them. What do you think? And then the last one that sort of goes hand in hand with this is predictive modeling. So once you understand the pattern, you start building models that will push people within that certain technographic or demographic or firmographic, like literally whatever, that customer profile, you start pushing them down a pathway that encourages behaviors that will increase LTV. So it's not just predicting who will buy, it's predicting who has the potential to become a high value long-term customer with low churn risk based off their behaviors both on your site before they become a customer and especially after they finally get onto your platform. C is for customer journey mapping. So traditional buyer journeys are mapped based off of assumptions, whereas AI-powered journey mapping is all based on the behavioral data of thousands of prospects in and outside of your organization. So you're getting the most data possible. We tend to map this by 3 dimensions. So the first would be the information journey. What content do the prospects consume at each stage? And what questions are they asking? What objections are they researching? Number 2 is the emotional journey. So what are their concerns? What are their fears? What are their aspirations at each touch point as they're graduating from one phase to the next? How does urgency evolve and what triggers action between each stage? Is there a threshold? Do they all happen to convert on one particular blog that's pointing out a specific pain point? Then okay, maybe that pain point should start to get spread across the rest of your marketing language and your messaging. Be like, hey, as a company, we solve this. Hey guys, like if 80% of your customers are coming because they understand that there's one feature that they love that you made that's saving them hours a day, so they flock to it. They don't really care about everything else. You're solving that problem until you stabilize. That's yours now. Go own it and then own the category for that and build support around that. Then when you start having millions come in of extra revenue because your customers gave you a win, then you can go experiment or get back on your roadmap or do whatever, go build the other things that you wanted to build. And then last would be the social journey. So who else is involved in the decision through the enterprise deal, right? Like, is it a senior manager that's coming in and every single time they're going to end up needing sign off from an executive. Okay, well, then get that executive in earlier in the process, or ask them early in the process, are you the primary decision maker? And is there anybody else that this meeting should be contingent on? Is there anybody else that should be in this meeting? Or is this just something that's going to get surprised to them in an email of a proposal of like, yay, we need $150,000 this year. Like, can you please approve it? Probably not. Make it so easy for their leaders to also say yes. Think about what stakeholders are going to have to enter the process. Like, how does their influence flow through the organization and end up getting you a closed won or a closed loss? Work with them as well, even if they're an invisible sort of force that you don't get to meet. Like, if there's somebody that's on the call that does not have the buying decision or the buying power, you need to start building collateral for that person. A is for the authority content engine, which is our specialty. So we love taking founders and building up their credibility online as thought leaders in their space, which just, it helps increase sales. It helps increase the ethos in the market that you want to be able to feel like, hey, we trust that this captain can steer the ship. Founders who typically win their categories aren't just posting on like random blogs or random LinkedIn updates once every week or two saying, oh, we built this thing, or we just moved our new intern into the office, right? Like, people care about, of course, but what they want to see even more is people building in public. And when you can build an authority engine, these systems are going to continuously produce founder-led content that ends up feeling personable, connected, transparent. They're talking to their buyer pain points. They're talking to their own pain points. They're communicating with other leaders that are at their stage, and then they're converting off of that authenticity and that connection. The mistake that a lot of them make here is that they end up pushing a lot of quantity, but they don't really push anything of value. So their blog ends up getting flooded with all of this just generic SEO fluff or just boilerplate thought leadership content that could have been generated in 5 minutes on ChatGPT or Gemini and making them kiss. Like, there's not a lot of thought going into it, so you can't really call yourself a leader. What you need is true authority content, true vulnerability as a leader, true showing your successes and your failures and what building actually looks like and why every single hire matters. If they feel, your prospects feel more connected to you, they're going to be more likely to invest in you. They're going to be a little bit more reluctant in the face of a churn event. That still matters. And I think that a lot of people nowadays are just so disincentivized about how disingenuine a lot of creators can be, or founders can be, where everything is just super polished and for the views, or for a valuation bump, and how cutthroat business can be, where it's just there's layoffs every single quarter like clockwork just to appease the stockholders. People, I say, mid to senior level managers, probably some directors and such, that haven't really been swallowed up by this, and especially people in the startup environment, because they've left, big corporate America in most cases. They're looking for authenticity, they're looking for connection, they're looking for that old school, like, American business. You have a company, this is your band of people, this is who you're building with, there's camaraderie, there's loyalty, and like, yeah, mistakes can happen, but like, you work through it with one another as a company, so that way everybody can get better. And I think that if you can show that you have that kind of culture as a startup as well, where you have that grit and you have that tenacity, and that your employees just aren't like, expendable, then you're going to gain so much more credibility and authority and willingness for people to work with you because of that culture. We're seeing this shift in ideology of like what types of companies customers are rewarding nowadays. What you want to do is you want to start building engines that start to extract your founders' insights and then package them into content that builds trust across platforms. So you can do something very simple like having Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and LinkedIn Shorts all be off of the same video. I believe you have to keep them under 60 seconds if you want to go on LinkedIn, but cool. Have your founder sit down once a week and just speak to the camera about what worked or what didn't work this week. And then go ahead and splice that content up across 20 different reels. And there's your content engine for the week. What you want to do is you want to systemize the delivery of the content and distribution of the content as well. So every single blog, every post, every video multiplies across channels. You can use something like Buffer. Well, I use Buffer to have my content be pre-scheduled weeks ahead of time. Now, these YouTube videos I typically record the night before, but I mean, I put out a blog every single weekday, 3 LinkedIn posts on my personal LinkedIn, 2 on my business LinkedIn, and then 5 or 6 tweets every single day. It's like I'm not sitting there doing that every single day. Like I take a weekend, I write everything that I want to write, and then I schedule it out for the month. And yeah, it takes a whole weekend, but then I'm ever present. And that's something that other founders need to take advantage of. Like one of the founders in my network, he just doesn't post ever. And like we're working with a huge company, but it's like every single time that he posts, it's something political. Or I'm like, hey, buddy, like, how about you start posting product updates? Or this is what our proprietary system is, or these are one of the advisors that came in to come work with us. Like build hype around the company rather than, it's not your profile anymore is what I should get across. If you're a founder, your profile is just as important as your company profile. L is for lead scoring algorithm optimization, which is a mouthful. So when you want to be lead scoring, you need to go far beyond just traditional point systems. You need to use machine learning models that consider hundreds of variables and continuously improve automatically without you having to update the system. So you want to be looking for a few different signals, and I can kind of like break this up by weight. So behavioral signals are 40% of the weight here. They typically look at content engagement patterns, website behavior and navigation paths, email interactions, both depth and frequency, and then social media engagement and sharing. So like how frequently are people actually saying this is valuable for me? Somebody else needs to see it as well. 25% of the weight should be around firmographic information. So the company growth trajectory and funding status, what tech stack they're using, and what relationships they actively have with vendors, and then organizational structure and their decision-making processes. Like, are they a 120-person company that has 3 or 4 different levels of management? What stage of the level of management are you speaking with? Do you actually have the final decision maker on the call, or should you go source them and try and get them onto a 3-way call or a 4-way call? So that way you guys can just hasten the process for everybody. That saves everyone money. 20% of the weight would be around timing signals. So budget cycle alignment, contract renewal timelines, industry specific, seasonal factors, and competitive landscape changes. The last 15% here would be around intent signals. So third-party intent data, search behavior and keyword research, competitive comparison activities, and implementation timeline indicators are all things that you want to be, starting to look for here. So like if a customer is going to want to, let's say, implement your product by the end of 2025 for 2026, and it's going to take about 2 weeks. Let me just check the date. Yeah, about 2 weeks for it to be September before you get going. Cool. You have September, October, November, December. That's a quarter to go through all of this stuff, or a little bit more than a quarter to go through all this stuff. Let's say that your onboarding system takes 2 months to do, but a competitor takes 6 months to fully onboard. They're probably going to go with you. So being sensitive to what their particular constraints are is also incredibly important and can win you more deals. Like, oh, you need to be up and running in 3 months? Awesome. It takes us a month and a half to be fully onboarded and have what we would consider super users on your account, and we can work with your customers. You can work with our customer success team to make sure that happens. Whereas a competitor, oh, well, we're still trying to integrate and set up on-premise servers or whatever their stipulation is. E is about execution and continuous optimization, or state-of-the-art optimizations. So it's the final component here is just constant improvement. You're just always wanting to make it better quarter over quarter, ideally month over month. But every 30 days, what you should be doing is trying to analyze your conversion performance, your engagement patterns, your channel effectiveness, message resonance, and the competitive intelligence that you have on the market. And if you can do all of that and have just like detailed 2 to 3 page report on each of those things, understand perfectly where you're positioned and what needs to change, then you'll be golden. What it does is this creates a sort of culture of compounding improvement where every single iteration builds upon the last, and you just continue leveling up. I'm going to leave you with a 90-day action plan, breaking it down in multiple phases week by week. But first, I want to talk about how we optimize revenue velocity. So that's RV, revenue velocity, equals lead quality times conversion rate times average deal size. All of that is divided by sales cycle length. Most agencies opt, and I'll put that somewhere on the screen. I don't think that you're going to remember any of it. Most agencies are optimizing for just one variable, where AI is optimizing all four of these simultaneously. So that would be your lead quality, your conversion rate, your deal size, and your sales cycle length. When you're looking at how to put all of this in action, it breaks down into a couple of phases. So your phase 1 is going to be the foundational phase. So days like 1 through 30, your first month that you're working on this. Week 1 through 2 is you're going to be auditing your data and starting to integrate these systems into your workflows. So you're going to audit existing lead data quality and completeness. You're going to integrate all marketing and sales data sources. And then you're going to implement proper tracking and attribution. By weeks 3 or 4, you're going to have AI enhanced ICP development. So of course, your ideal customer profile or your avatar. You want to analyze your customer success patterns with AI. And at first, it helps just to not look at past traditional models, just come at it with a brand new set of eyes and no preconceived notions. It will teach you a lot. You want to identify high value prospect characteristics so you can continue emulating and repeating those, or just spawning new clients that are of that exact same profile. And then you want to create detailed buyer personas with predictive elements. So it's like, oh, hey, yeah, we've seen this person before, right? Like, you can have it broken down by all of their personality traits, what their companies look like, where they are in their career. For instance, when I was working at this frontline employee engagement software company, we realized that people that had come in to our ICP, so effectively we're selling to HR and safety concerns, like HR and operations people, we realized that new employees that came into their company were eager to buy a platform like ours within the first 90 days of them being at that company. And it was wild, because then we just started targeting those types of people. And it was like, from a psychological perspective, they wanted to get out with all of the old systems and they wanted to replace them with their new systems. And I'm sure that this is a similar thing across other industries and other roles as well. People tend to want to use what they're already comfortable on. And as a result, when they start with a new company, they're going to be in the market for that type of service again. And sure, they might not have used you in the past, but it is a better opportunity that you know that this user is, or this prospect is going to be open to a buying decision in the near future, and you can usurp their fan favorite, especially if they're already on a system that they're not comfortable with. They would be more likely to replace it with your system, which they're also not comfortable with, understanding that there's going to be a learning curve just to get off of the grandfathered system. Phase 2, or your second month, days 31 through 60, are going to be around building your systems efficiently. So weeks 5 through week 6 are going to be building out and developing your lead scoring algorithm. You want to implement AI-powered lead scoring model, of course, duh. You want to train your algorithm on historical conversion data, and you want to test and refine scoring accuracy religiously. Weeks 7 and week 8, you want to actually build out that content engine creation. So now you should have automated content generation workflows. So you know from that authority content engine that you had before, okay, now our founder needs X amount of tweets. We need X amount of LinkedIn posts. We need 2 to 3 blogs per month, or 2 to 3 blogs per week, I should say. We need this to be happening either automatically with the use of AI, or we need to have our internal teams be churning them out. Create personalization rules and templates, so that way you're not falling into the trap of just doing, oh, hi, first name to 1,000 people on your email list. You start to figure out, okay, what kind of personalized information do we want to be surfacing to them? What do we want to call out? Is it their role? Is it a blog or an article that they had visited at one point and they bounced from and didn't make it further down the funnel? Do we go service, hey, you read this blog, you will like these 5 more, please come visit us again, right? If it's something like that, it can go a long way, because again, people like being paid attention to. You want to develop multi-channel distribution systems as well, so that way you're not just going all in on YouTube or going all in on LinkedIn or X. You have more ways to engage with more audiences across the whole ecosystem. By month 3, you're looking at pure optimization, so days 61 through 90. So weeks 9 through 10, you're looking at workflow automation. So you're trying to deploy intelligent nurture sequences via email that are, again, adaptable by persona. It's not just one string of email that you're sending to 1,000 plus people. You're actually sending out something that has guardrails that is going to be able to adapt based on the user you're sending it to. You're going to be able to automate your sales alerts and your handoff processes. So that is just one smooth transition, and none of these bottlenecks are coming from you internally. The only bottleneck will come from a decision maker who isn't ready to make that purchasing decision. But by this point, if you checked off every other box, not many of your prospects that are making it to the very bottom of the funnel on that sales call post-discovery are going to have to be taking months to go ahead and actually give you over a signature. One thing that will help with this as well is by implementing conversational AI. As mentioned earlier, train your chatbot on everything. It shouldn't just answer generic questions that Google could answer anyway. It should be actually experimenting with them, enticing them to try new products or new features, or, use a feature that they've already been using in a different way by like adapting the filters or the date range or whatever. You'd be able to pull one lever or twist another knob, and the system's behaving differently than the user has actually like experienced thus far. Unlocking more of those pathways will go a long way. Of course, having the chatbot as well be able to understand where the user is in the buyer's journey and then actually walk them through step by step like a sales rep. It's an always on 24/7 sales rep that is able to bring users or prospects through discovery and then qualify them. So that way the only thing that you need an actual human on the call for is to get the signature. By weeks 11 and 12, it's all about testing and optimization and just doing that in perpetuity. So you're going to be running A/B tests at this point across every touch point that you can manage. You want to optimize based on conversion data and feedback, not just on volume. So there's no point in having 10,000 leads per month if only 1% of them are converting. That's just an abysmal conversion rate. And then out of that 1%, you have like a 60% churn rate. Like you're not doing the thing that you think that you're doing. What you need to do instead is focus on getting the high intent top 10% that you know are going to convert and have a high LTV, even if that means that you go from 10,000 leads per month down to 230 leads per month. If the majority of that 230 are going to stay with you and be rockstar clients, that is going to be worth it. We're pretty much at this inflection point in B2B marketing where a lot of old heads are still holding on to these ideologies of just like, nope, we have the playbook, we have the traditional way, this is how my mentor taught me, and they're not wanting to make that pivot over to AI augmented systems. And I don't know if it's fear, I don't know if it's just, well, back in my day, we didn't need it or whatever, but it's the exact same cycle that I was too young to stop anybody from doing when, frankly, I was playing kickball in like elementary school when the internet started to get big. And like the first days that I can remember, like looking forward to getting home from school and going online. And I remember my parents were like vehemently against the internet and still can barely do anything on it. I'm seeing those same patterns of behavior in very highly educated enterprise executives that might be trying to find something to ride out their career with. So they're going to a new startup, but they're just not understanding it's a new game out there. The ones that don't adjust now in the next couple of months are just going to be cautionary tales and will be forgotten about. It's important to remember that your competitors are already doing this, or just assume that they are, right? Like if you are taking the assumption that like, hey, what is the best CMO or the best CEO in the industry right now doing? They're utilizing AI. I don't really care about how you feel about it, but the best in the industry are doing it right now. It's not really a question. It's not a question about whether or not AI is going to transform your lead nurturing or your marketing or your entire operation. It's going to. And the thing that matters right now is if you're hopping onto this wave and allowing it to, give you the momentum to stand up on your board, or if it's just going to let you sink in. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to get swallowed? or are you actually going to like get a pretty gnarly ride? And right now, AI is that. It's a generational shift in how we're working. It's not really about implementing just a few random AI tools. It's about fundamentally transforming how you identify, engage, and convert all of your prospects. It's all about building a sustainable competitive advantage that compounds over time. I can promise you that your competitors are already implementing these strategies. And if they're not, then they're just going to die alongside you. You need to ask yourself if you're just going to get taken asunder by the wave of AI right now, or if you're going to be as reluctant as people were back in the 90s when they didn't want to adjust to the internet. If any of this was helpful for you at all, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm super open to talk to anybody in the comments, help you with any questions that you might have. SaaS startup, I talk about SaaS companies and AI startups a lot, but a lot of these can apply to any business, whether you're making a lemonade stand or you're making the next tech unicorn. But yeah, with that said, feel free to give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm eager to continue making these, and I will put a couple of videos up over here as well for you to enjoy. Awesome. Have a good day.